Being a hopeless romantic is probably one of the worst things you can do in this generation, especially as a guy. And I can say that because I was the stereotypical definition of a hopeless romantic when I was a lot younger. And I know that deep down inside, there's still that idealistic view somewhere. And I know a lot of you guys are the same way because, one, I read the emails, and two, there's a lot more simps now than ever. You know, they say that simping is giving unreciprocated time, energy, attention, and resource to a girl. And it is, right? But a lot of simps are actually hopeless romantics as well. You know, you're always fantasizing about this dream scenario with this girl who probably pays you no mind in real life. You know, the girl that's always somewhat out of reach, or even worse, doesn't even know that you exist. Like a lot of the parasocial relationships that a lot of simps create through social media. And that's another thing, right? Fantasizing about this girl through a screen to the point where you don't even want to exist in reality. You know, simping over this girl who wouldn't breathe in your direction in real life, and then you're jerking off to her every night. And you begin to put yourself in this mindset where you see yourself as the main character, the underdog, the one that gets rejected. And the distance between you and this person, this girl that you fantasize about, you think that in your mind that it's a part of your storyline or plot or your arc that you have to go through. And eventually you're gonna finally get the girl and sail off into the sunset with her. You put yourself in this mindset where you're always daydreaming or fantasizing, and you can only see the potential of what someone could be. And you probably enjoy listening to more R&B than you care to admit. And to get psychoanalytical, right? Because, no one does it better than me. But a lot of this mindset actually comes from having a lack of love in your life while you're growing up. You know, you never got that love in reality, so you chase it through a fantasy. That was actually kind of a bar. And a lot of guys tend to get accused of, oh, who hurt you? Like guys that don't have that rose-tinted view of love and dating and relationships. You know, a more pessimistic view, even though in reality it's more realistic than anything. You know, just when it comes to your view on modern relationships and love and dating. But the reason why this applies more to guys than it does to girls is because a lot of girls go through life, never even experiencing rejection. While for most guys, getting rejected is like a rite of passage. But even for me, right, like I've been through heartbreaks and tough breakups, even with the girl who I thought I was gonna get married to one day. But it wasn't even that changed my view on love, dating, and relationships in general, where I took off those rose-tinted glasses, or where I dropped the whole hopeless romantic mindset. But it was actually through being in the game and going on a lot of dates and realizing how a lot of women in our generation, how they move nowadays. That's where the depressing part actually came from, was understanding that. And on one hand, right, the immediate thought was, wow, like they're really out here hoeing. But then you realize how many people are genuinely broken, and kind of how that brokenness has been reflective in modern dating and relationships. You can tell that a lot of these behaviors come from, these things that are repressed and then projected through romantic relationships and your love life. Your quote unquote shadow self, as Jung would say. And the reason why you as a guy especially should avoid the hopeless romantic mindset is because, number one, you're going to end up disappointed and hurt 99% of the time. It's because you got this view of relationships which it can never really truly live up to. And you start to become dependent on this person, this individual, to constantly make you feel something. You got this really specific way in which you think love and relationships is supposed to go. And you start to think of your situation as a rom-com. And most, if not all of them, have had the same premise. Just the whole nice guy, main character, finds the girl, she's with the bad boy, and then she falls in love with him in the end through some valor of defeating the quote-unquote bad boy, just something like that. And you kind of begin to attach this premise, this idea, to every single girl that you chase. And the insidious part of being a hopeless romantic is that, in a way, you kind of want to stay in this mindset of romanticizing your situation, because it's like you almost don't want to win. Because you sometimes fall in love with the chase just as much, if not even more, than the person itself. And in this situation, once that chase is over, you get bored and you move on to the next. And this one applies to girls and guys, but it's almost as if you attach the process of getting to this person to the actual person. And when this happens, you're naturally just gonna fall for every other girl that comes your way. Every other girl that seems a little bit different or treats you slightly better than the one before, or is a little bit nicer to you. You're putting yourself in a mindset or situation where you're susceptible to immediately catching feelings for her. And bro, this one, oh my gosh, is all too common. And on the extreme ends of the spectrum, most average guys catch feelings way harder than girls. Which again is why there's so many guys who simp, and you see it all over like even social media. Like bro, I'll tell you guys this. As a creator, I'm able to see certain analytics, and I can kind of get an idea of some of the channels that some guys in a certain demographic watch. And a lot of dudes out here are watching female, male self-improvement channel, like girls talking about making videos on how to defeat lust for dudes, while she's literally preying on your lust. It's like the craziest thing to me, but it's why it's so easy for girls to grift guys on social media, because, it's why OnlyFans is a thing. It's because there's so many simps. A lot of guys are simping through parasocial relationships through fantasies of women they see through a screen. Even women that pretend to be conservative on social media, right? All they have to do is say some basic conservative talking points. And just like that, so many dudes will go crazy for them. Like, if you're gonna simp, at least simp for a girl that's worth it. Just one that's God-fearing, not thoughting around on social media, family-oriented. But for a lot of simps, right, a lot of hopeless romantics, sometimes when you put yourself in this mindset where chasing the girl is a part of your storyline, it gives you a sense of purpose when you need to find something in life. Oftentimes, when you don't have a purpose, especially as a guy, but the natural progression is to chase a woman, to chase love, to essentially chase relationships, because it's a separate conquest that gives you instantaneous dopamine. Because think about it like this, right? When you're infatuated with a girl, when you're chasing a girl, every text, every conversation, every interaction, every date, all of it, right? All of that gives you dopamine, serotonin. It feels much better than the prolonged delayed gratification of chasing success with your career, goals, or aspirations. Because love, dating, relationships, and infatuation even, which is why this applies to women as well, they can never really just be to themselves. Like the hopeless romantic that's always chasing love and relationships, and especially like really attractive women, they're always either dating or at least talking to some guy in some way, shape, or form. And oftentimes this applies when your life feels empty. You naturally redirect your energy and pursuit to another person, right? You naturally just start chasing girls. Which is why oftentimes I was a hopeless romantic back in my teenage years, or even like middle school or elementary school. I'd be much more concerned with passing notes to girls in class than actually learning about whatever I was supposed to be. I would literally convince myself that I liked a girl just so that going back to school on Mondays felt easier. It gave me something to look forward to. I had a chase. But you put yourself in this mindset where you think that someone else can give your life meaning, and you start subconsciously relying on this, so you naturally romanticize your chase of love. And on top of that, being a hopeless romantic kind of blinds you from reality, because you only see the potential of what someone can be versus who they actually are. And not only do you become blinded, in a way you purposely put blindfolds on yourself and ignore those red flags. You look at those red flags as obstacles instead of acknowledging that, you guys just aren't compatible. Like really all it takes for guys is if she has a nice ass, if she has long hair, pretty eyes, and dudes will fold. You'll start to overlook things that would normally constitute as a red flag. Like, it's okay that she goes clubbing every weekend, and it's okay that her friends are hoes. It's okay that she smokes and drinks all the time. You think that in a sense you can change them when they're with you. You're idealistic, you fantasize, and you purposely delude yourself and put the blinders on. And the funny part about this is that you're actually aware when this is happening. It's just that guys choose to fold. So much so to the point where even if you get rejected by a girl, because you're so in deep, you think that this is also a part of your story. You kind of fantasize so much or created this imaginary connection where you still pursue her. You think that it's not over. This is just another part of the storyline. And that's another thing, right? With hopeless romantics, sometimes you hold on to unhealthy relationships because you would much rather be in this love story that's going through a struggle than to be by yourself, than to be alone. It's why a lot of girls hold on to their toxic ex. Here's the reality, right? For the right girl, for the right person, you should be a romantic. Never a hopeless romantic, but you should be romantic. But never let the way you feel dictate whether or not you should pursue a certain person. Always look for compatibility. If your morals and values align, your long-term life goals, if the attraction is there, if then you pursue her. But just try to realize and understand that your relationship, your love life is not a Hollywood rom-com. Be careful with your level of emotional investment. Make sure you're not fantasizing or creating connections that aren't really there. Just try to keep your emotions in check and realize that relationships and love takes a lot of time and effort. A soulmate is someone that you build, not someone that you find, not someone that walks through, a coffee shop on a Saturday afternoon, or not some girl that you're simping over through an iPhone screen because she has the nice ass. And it's definitely not a feeling or someone that you've chased through an arduous path. Anyways, hopefully you got some from that. Thank you for listening. I love you. I appreciate you. With that said, make sure you stay true. I'll talk to you guys real soon. Peace.